Hey, welcome to the Table at Central. My name is Isaiah,
And I'm George.
and we're here to dive deeper into the themes, stories, and culture that are central to our church. Hey, man, so here we are. We're at the third week of the Seeds series. I can't believe 3 weeks has passed by.
3 weeks.
Where does time go, bro? It's
Flies when you're
ridiculous.
having fun.
It does, and it also flies when you're learning really good stuff.
That's right.
So when it comes to week 3, last week we had Byron with us.
That was fun. We had a lot of fun with Byron last week.
Shout outs to Byron.
He's gonna be a regular.
He needs to be here. I told him at least once a month.
At least once a month he'll be on. I know a lot of people really enjoyed that conversation with Byron because I really enjoyed it, and he just drops wisdom.
That's right.
He's just a wise
He
dude.
was enjoying it.
Oh yeah, he had fun.
You could see it on his
Yeah.
face the whole
He had
time.
fun.
Yeah. Plus, he hasn't stopped talking about it every day since then. So, but yeah, let's look forward now, right? Because he set us up, and I feel like Pastor Paul picked up right where we needed to dive even deeper into this concept. That's a pun. That's what we're here for today. A lot of puns because the seeds analogy and the way that it impacts our lives as we look at being followers of Christ and trying to live lives that are grounded in a holy way. It really allows us to analyze, okay, so what do we do with the seeds that we are putting into the soil, and how do we look at the soil that we're putting the seeds into? And that's kind of what he dove into. What's the quote that he had? The line of, it's not just about the seed, it's about the soil.
About the soil, yeah.
Yeah, so I want to dive into that and really talk about the soil that we put ourselves in, maybe even the soil we find ourselves in sometimes when we're on like autopilot or in passivity.
Right.
When you were hearing him talk about the quality of soil, what kind of came to mind for you? Where did it take you?
Yeah. Well, I think he talked about, the people that you're around, the environment. So he said something like, it's not just about like having big ideas. Like it's not just about having an idea, but it's about the environment, which is, I think that no matter where you are in your life, that's probably pretty applicable in a pretty universal way, because we're always dreaming. We're always thinking of ways to make our lives better. We're all, you know what I mean? Like we're always thinking of like, if I had this, or if I could do this, or this is what I want to do. But, he kind of brought it down to this point where, you have to take care of the environment that you're in.
Yeah.
It's not just about having the ideas. Good ideas aren't good enough. You have to make sure that you're in the right environment. And so if we're planting seeds, then the soil is so important.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's biblical. That's the parable from the Bible. It's talking about the different types of soil.
Yes.
So for me it was like, he said it, the friends that the things that you're consuming, what you're reading, what you're watching, what you're listening to, the people you're around affects how you're growing. And it's almost like too simple.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's not a groundbreaking thing.
But that's the whole thing, right?
But it's profound at the same way
Exactly.
that it should be the way that we're living. But it's just a good reminder that I think that sometimes we get so caught up in, like I said, the dreaming and having the ideas, but we feel frustrated. He talked a little bit about we all have the same opportunity.
Right.
To make our lives better. Like God has given us this opportunity.
That's right.
To improve our lives.
Right.
He the sacrifice that he made on the cross, it gave us an opportunity to improve our lives. And if we want to do that, it's got to start with the environment,
right.
The soil that we're planting, that we're sowing into.
Absolutely.
Matters so much. What did that make you?
Yeah, I think
about?
what I loved about it too is that, like I said earlier, it's not just about what we do, but sometimes where we find ourselves, right? Like the families that we're a part of, you might come from a family where the hard work and the good stewardship of soil that your parents had, it allows for you to now, there's this expression that my friend always says, and he's like, I want my ceiling to be my daughter's floor.
Right.
And that's exactly what Christ has done for us. And that's also what our parents may have done for us too, if we're fortunate enough to have that story.
Yeah.
So you take this simple truth and it shifts the way you look at yourself and look at, how do I keep the good stewardship that I had before me?
Right.
How do I be a good steward myself as well? So as I was listening to him, I think that's what I started to reflect on. I started to reflect on, okay, who have I watched in my life that was really good about the soil that they're in? And, you know, for me, I think it's definitely like my mom and my dad. You know, I grew up on a Christian college campus.
Yeah.
My mom was like the dean of students. She was like the principal there. And I grew up watching class after class of Christians, young adults come and figure out who Christ is and what they want to do with their lives, and being exposed to people trying to figure it out for better and for worse, and watching my mom and dad help them and guide them amidst that time. I think it helped me to be able to take good inventory of the soil I put myself in. But I also recognize, like, dude, it wasn't anything that I did. It was just what I was blessed with.
Right.
And so I think, like, if you stop for a second and think about something so small as this concept, it really can help you to kind of be awakened to how much good things and gratefulness you should have for the soil that you've been given, whether you've put effort into it or not. And then from there, after taking that inventory, you can say, okay, how can I expand this, or how can I make this better? Through something as simple as joining a group and being plugged in at church, or the way you're nice and kind to the people at work, the legacy you leave there, you know, like, it's so simple, and therefore it can be applied in so many facets of life. You know?
It makes me think about how, you know, we talked about the process last week with Byron. I think that taking care of cultivating the soil is a part of that process. Yeah. It kind of reminds me how there's so much more to it than just, you know, this whole analogy that we're doing the whole series on is seeds, you know, and it's like we say things like planting small seeds that it can lead to big things, but it's like, this isn't a process that's like you plant a seed and then walk away and then come back later and hope that something's there. You know, there's a whole process to it, and there's all of these factors that are a part of it. And so, like, this week we're just focusing on, you know, it's not just about the seed, it's the soil, it's the environment. And so I think what that taught me was my role and my responsibility in this process.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I believe that this whole life thing, you know, when we're building a life, we're partnering with Christ, right? Yeah. I don't think that we're just like helpless puppets. Right. Where, you know, like, God just controls us. I believe that it's a partnership with him.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And he has a role, and he's Lord, you know, he's my savior, and I need him. But my role and my responsibility is, you know, he gives you these abilities, he gives you the resources, he gives you the opportunities. And my responsibility is to make sure that the soil that I'm planting in, that he gave me, is taken care of, that it's cultivated, that I'm caring for it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's good stewardship. That's really good, yeah. So it's not just I'm going to plant these seeds and hopefully they grow. Right. Part of the process is tending to the soil. That's right. Making sure that it's healthy. That's right. So that my life can flourish. And that's what he was talking about.
He was, and I love that he mentioned the gap, right? We're all somewhere in that gap between, you know, planting something in good intention and waiting for it to sprout. Yeah. And he was like, it's tough, right? That's farming. Yeah. And I was like, why you got to do that to us, man? That's it. That's what a farmer does, right? Yeah. Like, there's people today, in the 21st century that still farm, that are still a backbone for our society, and they've mastered this process. Right. They do it as a business. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yet we, as people, have a hard time waiting to see something sprout. So then when he took it further, it wasn't, if it's not based on the fruit, if it's not based on the seed that comes and sprouts, we have to figure out if soil's good. A lot of times the way you know if soil's bad is if it doesn't bring things of life into your life. Right. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, because he talked all about not just the ideal, but the faith-filled, what you want to see, what you hope to see. Right. Let's talk a little bit about bad soil. Yeah. When you think of bad soil and you think of places that you don't want to be in, environments you don't want to keep your heart in, and why? Like, what do you think of?
I think the first thing I think of is, you know, he talked about the environments, the people that you're around. So the opposite for me would be being around people that don't have a high standard for their lives. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like people not being around or being around people that are okay with just enough, that are okay with letting things slide, like no accountability, environments where there's no accountability.
Yeah.
I think where I've seen the most growth in my life, whether it's spiritually, just emotionally, mentally, whatever, even physically, like it's been in environments where I have accountability. And it's the truth is also, it's also true on the flip side. When I've been in environments where there's no accountability, it's so easy to just slip and just, your life is kind of going nowhere. Yeah. So I think that's a dangerous thing, to be around people that first of all don't have the vision for their lives. Right. And if they don't have vision for their life, if they don't have that standard for their own life, how can they keep you accountable? You know what I mean? I think that's why, you're one of my best friends, and we're doing life together. And what's good is that we both have our personal vision and standard for our life. Therefore, we can share that with each other.
That's right.
We can, it wouldn't make sense if I'm keeping you accountable on something that I don't even keep myself accountable.
That's right.
And so when I'm investing in relationships, I want to invest in relationships in my life that it's people that they care where they're going. Yeah. They care about living righteously and living in a way that's pleasing to God.
That's good.
Living in a way that's fulfilling their purpose and their calling that God has for their lives. That's important to me. Because it's important to me, I want to invest in those types of relationships, because I know that if I just walk with them, if I'm around them, their standards can be my standards. 100%. We keep bringing Byron up, but that's what happened. That's what's happened with me the last 4 years. Like I can clearly look back in the last 4 years. He's been the most consistent person that I've had in the last 4 years. Sure. Before I got married, before, when we were both just single guys. Yeah. And you can just see that the changes in my standards for my life were different because I was around him. Absolutely, bro. And so I think there's a lot of people out there that may be listening to this, and they allow themselves to be in environments where there are no standards. Yeah. There is no accountability. Yeah. And it can get messy, because sometimes it can be family and it can be friends that are close. Sure. So it can get a little messy, because I love them. Yeah. And that's good. But I think that we need to be aware when those environments are not fruitful.
I think, you're talking, because what it is we get afraid sometimes to take that inventory and to wake up and to be aware of those things.
Yeah. And it's tough.
Because part of what it is it's not once. It's not once that you acknowledge the standard being raised in the people around you, or you feel the inspiration from being around a specific community. Right. You have to continue to find those things. Yeah. It's not just once, because once you find it once, it's not enough fuel to drive you toward making your life better. Right. That's because we're not supposed to be the ones that make each other better. Yeah. It's God making us better through those people. Exactly. So it's a dependence on God. Yeah. It's a thing you got to keep getting into. And here, again, something so simple becomes super profound, and it's farming. Yeah. And I was like, dang, Pastor Paul, can you tell? And I also feel like you were mentioning Byron. I thought you were going to mention, he talked about iron sharpening iron. Right, yeah. That's what that is. You just literally defined iron sharpening iron. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I want to be somebody who offers that to people, who finds that in others. Yeah. I want to be somebody who is around others and they know that I cherish that they're sharpening iron with me. Sometimes it can feel lonely when you feel like you're the only one, and this is kind of some of the stuff that leads to soil of passivity and soil of comfort and soil of taking it easy, of soil of not putting myself out there, taking a risk. But faith is spelled R-I-S-K, bro. That's it. That's how it's got to be. So I think that's definitely what I thought of. And then I started thinking about the fact that for me internally, it's anger, it's shame, it's bitterness. That's the type of soil and environment that I know chokes out the seed that God's planted in me. I know that for a fact, and I think Pastor Paul even mentioned about the idea of bitterness, right? One thing that I heard once upon a time in Bible school, never forget it, is that bitterness is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. For the other person to be harmed, for the other person to be hurt by it. That's good. And that's just, it's never going to happen. And the enemy gets a really quick W off of that, where he's just putting a stick in your hands and you're hitting yourself with it. Right. And I know I've put myself in that position time and time again. Yeah. And I think it takes a certain level of humility and courage to trust that God has more for your soil on the other end of how that might feel. And so I think that's what I started digging into too. I'm like, man, how many times have I been in a position where it's like, I'm going to hold on to this anger because I need everybody to know I was wronged.
Right.
I need you to know that they're wrong. And if no one else is going to know it, I'll wear it on me so that there's something that reminds you that I was wrong.
Right.
And it's just, it takes us out. It takes me out. I don't want to be someone that chokes out the seed that was given to me via Christ dying on the cross. I don't want to be someone that's a party pooper. Everybody knows what it's like to be at the function, at the party, at the celebration, and there's that one person moping. I don't want to be that. I don't want to bring that into the room.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to purpose, especially when it comes to standards.
Good.
So yeah, man, when he was talking about that, I'm like, yeah, it's so many different ways you can diagnose that soil, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It made me think of how, I think you and I have talked about this before, but I'm a big believer in usually whatever has hurt us in the past, the environments that have hurt us in the past, God wants to use to redeem and to heal you. But what I mean by that is, you know, specifically for people that have been hurt by leaders, which you and I both have.
Absolutely.
We've been hurt by church. We've been hurt by people who were supposed to take care of us. That's a very real thing. That's a very common thing nowadays. Or people have been hurt by just church people.
Yeah.
But I'm a big believer that, first of all, one of the worst things you can do for the seeds that you plant and for the cultivation of the soil that you want to keep healthy, the worst thing to do is, like you said, like keeping that bitterness, the anger, because it doesn't allow you to move forward.
Right.
It doesn't allow you to heal from those things. And I think God is such a powerful and also graceful God. He won't use something different to heal you. If you've been hurt by a leader,
go crazy.
He will usually use a good leader to help you heal.
That's right.
If you've been hurt by a church before,
that's right.
Usually the healing that you'll find is at another church.
Absolutely.
If you've been hurt by relationships in the past, usually if you choose to just keep a tender heart and jump into a friendship or relationship again, you will usually find, and God's in it, you will usually find healing.
I agree.
So He doesn't use something that's like different or opposite from what hurt you. Right. I think that he's just so sovereign and so powerful that he doesn't just want to heal you. He wants to redeem those things that the enemy has used in the past to hurt you, to destroy you. Yeah. He wants to redeem those so that you have a story to tell.
That's right.
And so if there's been bad soil in your life before, God wants to use the good soil in your life for you to find healing, for you to have a story of redemption so that you can, you know, like, so you can move forward with your life.
That's right.
You know, like, why would you, it's like, yeah, it's true. Like, you're taking poison and waiting for somebody else to die, but really you're the one that's being hurt.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think that there's people that are kind of living on the outskirts, that are living on the outside of what God has for them because of past experiences.
Right.
And I'm hoping and praying that somebody listening to this that has been living that way will hear this and just be like, okay, I got to jump back in.
But one of the best things about this simple series is that it all connects back to, like we said in the first episode, the way that God has done things from the beginning that we have on record via our word. Yeah. Chapter 1. Genesis.
Can look back.
And you just what you described, it's God's got that tenderness in his heart toward us. Have we not wronged him?
Yeah.
Have we not done him incredibly wrong?
Right.
Have we not chosen other things over him? Have we not abused what it means to belong to him? Have we not looked the other way? And yet he doesn't drink poison waiting for us to die. Yeah. He chooses to chase after us. Yeah. Even though time and time again, we're going to continue to do the things that we do. We still are doing those things. Right. He's still chasing after us. Yeah. He still wants to prove to us that what you just said, the soil can be good in our lives. He believes that the soil of our hearts is a good place to plant his love. You know what I mean? And so like, I think as I reflect majorly on the whole theme of this seed series, I love how Pastor Paul ended on the tender heart, right? So when you say tender heart, what are some things that you do in your life that help to cultivate that tender heart? Yeah. And you mentioned your community. What are some things that help you to soften your heart, to help you to have capacity for grace? outside of the things you go through, because obviously that has its own little curriculum to it. But
I think first of all, like, I mean, I think you know this, but I've struggled with with anger in the past, and so just me getting real personal, when things happen to me, I get angry quickly, but and it's biblical to be slow to anger and slow to speak.
That's right.
Well, I'm not slow to anger, but I try to be slow to speak. I want to get 50%.
He said, well,
I want to be 50%. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. You still on the board?
Yeah, I'm still on the board.
There you go.
Still making shots.
No, come on.
But I know myself. What I'm trying to say is that I know myself, and I know what my response is.
Yeah.
And so knowing myself, I also know that I want to be someone that doesn't hold on to grudges, that doesn't hold on to bitterness, that doesn't hold on to those things, because I've just seen how it breaks down your life. I've seen how, it's going back to the poison analogy.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's always just being kind of like, if someone spits on you, you let it slide. You just let it slide down. You know what I mean? Like,
turn
it's
the
just
other cheek.
Turn the other cheek, which is one of the toughest verses for me.
Yeah, that's tough.
If there's one thing that I want to, talk to Jesus about, like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, that
like,
song, that one song.
That just doesn't.
Isn't there a song?
Yeah.
Toby
yeah.
Try
Jesus, don't try me, 'cause I throw
me.
hands. Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs.
I love that song. It's so good.
That's one of my favorite songs, and that's one of the verses I struggle with the most. And if there's one bone to pick with Jesus, for me, it's that one.
Yeah.
But you see it active in your life when you see it in practice. You see the change that happens to you. And I was on the phone with a friend this morning, and talking about keeping that tender heart. To me, it's just continuing to be honest with God.
It's good.
Because the moment that I start to hide what I'm feeling, because I feel like I can't handle him, or because he doesn't care,
or I'm gonna just push through
or
this,
I'm just gonna push through this, is the moment my heart becomes hard.
Yeah.
And so my way of keeping my heart tender is by being brutally honest with him.
Yeah.
Even if that I've lived this long enough to know that there's nothing that can come out of my mouth that he can't handle. There's nothing that I think that he doesn't have an answer to. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that I'm gonna say when I'm being just brutally honest about how I feel to him that's gonna disqualify me from his grace.
That's right.
And so, and I believe that so much so that I'm just willing to be honest with him.
Yeah.
And that keeps my heart tender, because when you choose to do that with God, when you choose to just be honest with God about where you're at and what you're going through, you're opening up your heart.
That's right.
You're keeping yourself in this posture of, like, I'm letting you in.
Right.
And so you can be angry, you can be frustrated, you can be terrified, you can be anxious, you can be depressed, you can fill in the blank, whatever you're feeling. But if you can at least be honest with him, that's right, your heart can continue to stay tender, because you're at least you're taking it out of yourself and displaying it and laying it down and putting it in front of him, like.
Yeah, you're properly exercising your heart. It's like when a muscle's tight, and what do? You go get a massage, and the massage helps to, or you try to stretch. What are you doing? You're activating, you're moving that muscle. That's what you're saying. You're saying by taking the time to actually massage that out and let the Holy Spirit have hands on that.
Yeah.
That's enough for you to be able to have a softened heart instead of having a hard heart and just kind of enduring through everything all the time. And I don't think we're called to be those types of people at all. I come from a place where the big thing that they taught us all the time was the idea of a grief journal. And I think I was talking to Grace about this, I think, but shout
out Grace.
Yeah, shout out Grace. But yeah, we believed in this idea of, like, taking the time to open up a journal, opening up a Word document, and just write about what you go through, write about what's hard, write about what's tough. I really believe, like, journaling is so important.
Right.
But we used to do this one thing, me and the guys, a Bible study I used to lead, and we used to have 1 week after a couple weeks of meeting together where we'd come with our grief journals together, and we'd sit around a fire. And we would talk, and then there would be an opportunity for you to take the risk of reading your grief journal out loud. no judgment, Vegas rules, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas type of rules. And we used to say, look, man, this is about going for it and being transparent and massaging that muscle, like you just said, right? And there's always a couple guys that are eager to do it and down to do it. And they would see transformation right in the moment, breaking down, crying, tearing up. And then they take that journal and they throw it in the fire after. And there's something significant about that. But then there's also the tough-hearted guys that you think aren't going to, do the exercise. But by hearing other people do it, it softened their heart. And so I think, like, for me, that's something I would recommend. We're still plugging groups. We're still telling you to plug into a community, because when you're around other people that are looking for a standard of transparency and honesty, those are the things that help you to go from a hard heart to a tender heart to a soft heart, so that you can see more come from your life and have soil that's actually fruitful soil.
Absolutely.
I think we should all, like, aspire to be people who can offer that to others, be someone who can listen longer, be someone who can have enough understanding of how much grace God has for us, that we have the grace to listen to other people as they're talking about their tough things, and I think about Central, because you said it, right? Hurt by church, but that hurt led me to this place, to another church, to this church that has this knack and the spiritual gift for people who are hurt and disenfranchised by the church, have found so much warmth and tenderness in these people, and so I very much think that this is a really great series, and that what Pastor Paul was talking about when it comes to resistance, we very much are a part of the decision. We're not waiting for God to do all of the work. He's definitely looking at us like, all right, so are you going to get in the game? Are you going to get in the game? Because when you're in the game and you're actually tapped in and taking advantage of this, it's farming. No, I'm just kidding. It's
you love that.
You're in here, bro. So good. It was such a good line. I want to be a good farmer of the soul. I want to be a good steward of the garden of my soul. So, man, I really loved this week. Any last thoughts for them as they go away from the podcast and we head into week 4 that you want to drop on them on the way out?
I mean, you mentioned groups, and it's like, we're still plugging groups. And I was talking to somebody last week. I was trying to encourage them to join a group. And I told them, like, we're not plugging groups so that we can say, this is how many people we have at groups signed up.
That's right.
And we can celebrate. It's because we know what happens at groups. It's because we know how important it is for our lives, for us to do life together.
That's right.
And there's so many people that I talk to at church, multiple people that have said something like, I just need community. I need somebody to talk to. I just need to do life with people. I need somebody in my life, because otherwise I know that I'm just going to stray away, whatever. Like, I've heard many variations of the same thing. And I'm not saying that groups is the end all be all, but I think it's a great first step in the right direction.
That's right.
So like I was saying earlier, there's people that may be living kind of on the outskirts, on the outside of what God has for them. I think doing something like this is a great first step towards it. A faith step. Yeah. And for some people, it's like, yeah, dude, I'm going to do groups. Of course, I'm going to sign up for 15 groups. I don't think we even have 15 groups, but I'm going to sign up for all of them.
Every discipleship class.
All of them. How are you going to do 2 at the same time? Or at the same time?
At the same time.
But there's other people that, it's a hill to climb, and I get that. And I hope that people, the more we talk about this, it'll click in their minds, like, okay, and it's not just like we've persuaded them. It's more so God is speaking to them about having to do this, taking a step forward. Because I think that there's just life change in it. I think that some people are going to, at the end of the group semester, are going to look back and just almost not be able to recognize themselves and recognize their lives, because it wasn't because they did this insane life change. They didn't change their career.
Nope.
They didn't change who they're married to. They didn't change where they live. They just started doing life with other people.
One small seed.
It's a small seed. And I think it has the potential to do something great in their lives. And so that's what we're hoping and praying for.
That's right.
And that's my last thoughts. What about you? What do you have?
I echo what you're saying. And I also just challenge you, slow down and take inventory. Maybe do it in the morning over a cup of coffee. Find yourself a place that's peaceful, that allows you to rest, even if it's your car, even if you're just putting worship on in your car. Like, take the time, take inventory, till that soil. I think God will meet you in a way that's transformative.
Yeah.
And you got to tell us all about it. Tell
Yeah.
us all about it. So another good episode here
Great talk
at the table, Matt Central.
We'll see you guys next week.